who has a definitive best run as which character has the best run in comic book history as far as between Marvel and DC?
The best comic book run in that's Frank Miller Daredevil.
Okay.
Neil Gaiman Sandman.
So no Animal Man?
Oh my goodness, you shouldn't have gone there, Dalton. Alrighty, so do you guys have a timer?
What are we doing? How many minutes?
3 minutes.
Hold on. Whoever wants to start.
I've got it right here if you'll trust me.
I'll be a timer if somebody else wants to be. I guess. Well, that's the one thing. I got. Okay, go ahead.
Alrighty, so Frank Miller comes on the scene. He's brand new artist, brand new writer, and he gets Daredevil of all things, small character. He makes him huge. He makes comic book readers care about a character that they hadn't even given a second thought to. Not only that, but he redefines comic books. He's writing noir where it never was. He helped make comic books mature. Not the way they became where they're overly violent, but actually mature, attacking certain subjects. It wasn't just the art, but it was the writing itself.
You're really going with this argumentation, are you now?
Yes.
Because in terms of taking an obscure character and making it not obscure, Gaiman Sandman did it better.
No, sir. No, sir.
Daredevil
is the same Daredevil that started in 1963. The Neil Gaiman Sandman was a complete rewrite. It was a complete recreation.
Which added to the mythology and managed to tie all of the disparate Sandmans together, given that there were two of them before.
In the Sandman itself, he had to do away with Hector Hall in order for him to continue. He did away with the mythology.
Hector Hall was dead at the time. Do you not remember that's how his
I do remember.
He was a ghost.
I do remember. They gave away. Plus, you're talking about how Neil Gaiman's run. You can look through the entirety of Frank Miller's run, and you go, that book is excellent. That book is excellent from the very beginning to the very end. Sandman, at the very least, comes grinding to a halt during the kindly ones and is completely turned over for the wake, ending not only in what I would say is a lesser Sandman, but what you constantly say is a lesser Sandman. At the end of my Frank Miller run of Daredevil, he comes out stronger. He comes out a better character. He comes out more well-known. Even by your own words, at the end of this Neil Gaiman Sandman run, he comes out a worse character. He's no longer Morpheus, he's Daniel. And in the end,
well, it's not the same being for the first off, so I don't think saying he's a worse character at the end is entirely fair.
Completely different character.
And also, no matter what you may say about Daredevil, it's just a street-level noir. Sandman
it's a personal story. It's a personal story that's focused, while Sandman is all over the place.
Sandman isn't in any way personal.
No, because Sandman is barely the hero of his own stories. In every story, it takes place in the mind of a human who they tell their story, and at the end, the Sandman comes along and goes, "Hey, I'll fix things," and that's it. It's a Deus Ex Machina at best.
That was only the first few issues, and you damn well know it.
That's the first 60, and you know it because I've been reading it recently, doing the videos on my other channel.
That basically stopped after the thing with the Corinthian and the serial killer convention.
That happened all the way up to
other characters play in Dream's story, but it's still, at the end of the day, his story.
There's an entire story about the Caesar and a midget talking on a stoop that had nothing to do with the Sandman. He's barely in his own series. While Daredevil, every issue. Sorry, man.
Yes.
In the end, Frank Miller kicks all sorts of ass on this one. Oh, and we've gone over 3 minutes. It's like 3:48.
Yeah, that's a shock.
We've been doing this for like 5 minutes now. Yeah,
4 minutes. So let's put a stop here, guys. Okay,
I'll let Eric go first. Is he itching over there at the seams?
All righty.
I guess I'll have to open with
Dalton, you can take some solace that if you lose the next question, that it took 2 guys to beat you. I think Englentine controlled the narrative, and he said what made Daredevil a great run. He had you on the defense to the point to where you didn't tell us why Sandman was such a great run because you were too busy arguing with F. Lee Englentine over there. So I've got to give it to the man with 4 channels.
One of which is doing a issue by issue review of the Sandman right now. When you said that, I was like, "Oh, I gotcha." All righty, what do you think, Point?
Oh man, that's a tough one. I mean, basically, I'm kind of biased because I hated Sandman after reading all of it.
Oh, okay.
No, but it's got to go by the argument.
That's fighting
Dalton
Yeah.
words,
said versus
man. God damn you.
I know it's just it's just a lot. It was a personal tragedy to me. Anyway, well, Dalton
Okay,
couldn't
that's
really.
an interesting story for another day, which I'm going to ask you about when we're done here. But different topic.
Right.
Can you
So-
steal this book?
So one, I gotta appreciate the Daredevil comments about basically how Frank Miller kind of redefined the character, brought him up. I'll have to go with that one because, like, basically Sandman, man. You didn't really have enough time to articulate your side
Yeah,
of it about it
I was
since
as
man, you took the
Eric put
bait.
it, playing the defensive for most of my time, and then we both realized, wait, we've been talking about this for 5 minutes, and we were still to
You and I have been talking about this for 4 years.
My
and
whole
we're probably never going to stop talking about it because it is probably my favorite comic ever written, and I
Yeah.
doubt that's going to change anytime soon.
It's just I would have preferred Animal Man instead, or maybe Doom Patrol by
Well,
Grant
you-
Morrison.
yeah,
It's
you
been-
can't
it's
go
been
by
a
that.
long time since I revisited Animal Man. Honestly, I need to bite the bullet and get the omnibus for Grant Morrison's run of Animal Man.
So in other
God
words,
damn
you
it.
complained for Englentine.
Yeah.
Basically saying. I would have done the same thing. Because Dalton, you were on the defense. You didn't tell me anything good about Sandman. You just kept saying, "Oh, he's a different character." And it's not the same guy. Where Matt Murdock was every single issue, and you see his maturity and everything, him growing into a different character, becoming more confident in his abilities. Admitting to his mistakes, trying to be a better person. All you got from you was a Sandman.
If Englentine had went there, I think I would have at least had a point.
All I got from you was a midget in the sand.
That's a whole other can of worms, but different day.
But I was curious though, how would you have went if you would have chose Spectre versus Sandman?
Oh, that would have been rough.
Where was the Spectre run that could...
It depends on whether we're
Well,
going with like
I would have gone with the John Ostrander
Yeah.
from the 1990s, and I would have mentioned the fact that we've got 2 mystical characters, but one. No, I would have lost.
No, but at least with the Ostrander run, from everything I know about it, you would have at least that would have at least been a fight. I don't think, aside from perhaps the John Ostrander run, there is a great run of the Spectre. That's the thing. The Sandman is one truly great run of 75 issues that unfortunately has the character that shouldn't be able to fucking die because its literal sister is death, dying at the end for cockamamie bullshit plot convenience reasons.
All right. Anyway, so who gets the point?
Jim
You got the
Sorensen.
point, and you had to make me say it, didn't you? Entirely.
How about the next question should be from the people in the crowd in chat.
All righty.
If you guys can agree on the same question.
Mostly because neither Breen nor Rankman could be ours to come up with another good one, but that's the
Okay, hold on a second there. Dalton, and boy, are you behind the 8 ball already.
Well, I kind of like, I'm being biased to Spider-Man, so I kind of like then who was the best love interest for Peter Parker.
Mary
But
Jane.
Okay, Gwen Stacy.
All right, Mary Jane. From the very start, when we start seeing her in the in silhouette form, and Peter Parker's wondering who she is, up to the point where he opens the door and says, "You hit the jackpot, you hit the jackpot, Tiger." Mary Jane's been iconic. Obviously, the beautiful redhead next door, in my opinion, kind of goes over than the blonde. I'm just more partial that way.
But before we get sidetracked off into Eglantine's, sexual fantasies portion of the program, you want to talk iconic?
Okay.
For Spider-Man?
Sure.
You can't get any more iconic than the death of Gwen Stacy. I'm sorry. Yes, she basically existed to die, but what character has had a stronger impact on Spider-Man as a character?
I would say the one that got married to him in a freaking real life baseball stadium. That's the character.
And then immediately lost her marriage to the devil.
That everybody and their brother wants to have back. Nobody is claiming, oh my God, they got to bring Gwen Stacy and Spider-Man back. They're saying they got to put Mary Jane and Spider-Man back, because even everybody,
because she is the nearest to the current timeline. Had Gwen stayed around, there's no reason to think that MJ would have ever even been a thing.
Except for
it's because of his relationship with Gwen that he becomes so protective of Mary Jane. He doesn't want to go through the pain of having to deal with Gwen Stacy or having to deal with Gwen Stacy's, loss ever again, or anything approaching that. And yet, most of the time, Mary Jane is bitching at him over, his loyalties to her or his loyalties to Spider-Man, or giving him a guilt trip that makes him have to guilt trip himself over whether he's, the man or whether he's Spider-Man. Gwen, say what you will about her, never really did that. Granted, she didn't stay around for very long to do that, but again, she certainly left with a bang.
But when all is said and done, yes, she was the dream girl. Mary Jane was the dream girl that he ended up getting, the model, of course, during the 1980s, the one that he married, the one that everybody in the world wants to get together, and the one that he had the longest and closest and deepest relationship with, which is why not only did he create a good bond with her, but so did everybody in the world. And when you boil it all down to it, you have a choice over a woman who is that model, that wonderful wife, and everything that entails in there, or the woman that is either a corpse or a clone. And that is not the real Gwen Stacy. And that's why I am going to stick with Mary Jane as the best love interest for Peter Parker. Okay.
I'm trying to figure out how I want to phrase my rebuttal.
We're at 29.
It comes down to this. Mary Jane was around longer, but that also means that she has made more mistakes. But Gwen, she will always be the ideal that he is constantly living up to. It's the guilt over Gwen that makes him so good for Mary Jane. There will always be that shadow of her over his conscience, because she was the first big loss for him and the first big mature Spider-Man storyline, if we're being entirely honest.
And now we're at 408.
Okay.
All right. We're going to stop right there. Okay. So there you go. Oh, and thank you very much to Uncanny Z for the $3 super chat. That for some reason, there you go. Thank you very much for the $3 super chat. Certainly appreciate it. Thank you. And remember, you can change in the middle of a question. Anyway, you can change loyalties the whole 9 yards, and you can affect the game. So let's start up with you, Venkman. What'd you think?
I'd have to give it to you as far as what you're saying about Mary Jane. Even though Dalton said, their marriage lost to the devil. Anybody is crying for them to get the back there. Nobody's crying for Gwen Stacy to get with Peter Parker. Not even in the alternate Ghost Spider title, or any of the ones. People are happy with Mary Jane. I mean, Gwen's. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind if they do Elseworlds or something like that, but I never see an outcry like, you know what? They should take Gwen Stacy and get her back with Peter. I see people shipping Gwen Stacy with other people.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I basically pulled this entire thing out of my ass because I do not give a shit either way.
No, it was actually a pretty good argument you had, for certain ththings. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and it was pulled directly from my ass because I do not care either way.
Batman brought up, I think earlier too, a point, but see, Angleton didn't see that though. I mean, as far as, and I don't think that would count if he would have saw it. But anyway, Mary Jane found out that he was Spider-Man right away before Gwen Stacy was just clueless.
Yeah, she actually hated Spider-Man because of the death of her father.
And Gail just laughed at you.
No, she's watching some sort of lion documentary on Netflix. Yeah. Let's see. Now, the first big loss for Pete was Uncle Ben. He and Dalton are making good points, says Zach Richmond. Spider-Man has had a lot of mature storylines, says Maverick. And Maranya saying there were arguments made that Gwen was the only one who really impacted Peter with her death. She is not the only one, as I pointed out. All righty. So how about you, Breen? What do you think?
Well, I'm going to say that you win because this was a battle of, two people that really knew what they were doing, but one guy just has more experience with the subject matter. I would say, like I said, I don't think it's even necessarily experience. It's just that I don't care. And I had to basically come up with a false argument. But that's a testament to you. No, that's a testament to your debating skills that you were able to make points to keep it close. I mean, there's some things about both characters that weren't said. In House of M, when Peter supposedly had his dream life, it was Gwen and not Mary Jane. Mary Jane left Peter years before Mephisto, rigged that deal to make to annul the marriage. And Gwen, if you haven't chosen to ignore this little bit of continuity, went off and had Norman's babies. So
I do choose to ignore that.
I do too. But given that you put all that aside, the Mary Jane relationship with Peter has become the relationship. But I will say, like I said, Dalton kept it very close with the Gwen being the ideal that Peter's tried to live up to ever since. And also the reason, Venk, that nobody clamors for Peter and Gwen to get back together is E and I represent about a 1% of people that still remember them, as most people don't even know that Gwen was that character.
When I was getting at when I pointed out that Mary Jane is the one that's closest to everybody's memory.
I would say
that was your best point, Dalton.
I would say there might be a few after the Amazing Spider-Man came out,
Yeah.
The movie.
To be fair, my last point that I was kind of stuck halfway through was going to be that even though Mary Jane makes Peter Parker happier, in terms of how it impacted the character, Gwen is a better fit for Spider-Man. But I never got to make that point, so it didn't matter.
Right. Well, that sometimes just happens from time.
And you guys chose the obvious Mary Jane and Gwen. Black Cat, Felicia Hardy was also one. I mean,
but I couldn't go with Felicia because I literally once made an entire argument about how shit she is for Peter and how they're a horrible fit. So I couldn't.
There was never enough depth to Felicia Hardy.
Bold-face contradict something I had previously said.
And we're all ignoring Charlie Cooper because building up that you could say who has through the past and current publishers, who has the best character that's being written right now?
Red Sonja not only is she being written fun and well as she normally is right now in Red Sonja Meets Betty and Veronica and such, she has been written well for the last 5 years, pretty much consistently. Also, doesn't matter if she's in modern times, which I got to say I'm getting tired of the barbarian and modern time story trope, or in the past. Amy Chu definitely has the better run of that. I think she captures the warrior spirit. They don't dumb her down, nor do they cover up to try to say that, hey, look, this is the modern version of her. She's still in her chain link armor. Granted, there's a little more shoulder pad to it, but it's working. And I think that's absolutely fantastic that the writers, the publishers, and everybody involved knows and can trust the audience to like her for who and what she is. I'm giving you time to step in here.
Okay. The awesome thing about Abe Sapien, particularly lately, is it's, you know, the greatness of Mike Mignola as per always, because that's his entire universe. But lately they've been trying to give Abe his own sort of character, and they're going straight up Lovecraftian with it, where he's slowly having to sort of divest himself of his connections to humanity and sort of deal with the fact that he's basically a creature out of Lovecraftian fiction. Between Plague of Frogs, and I believe the story was called The Drowning, we sort of see Abe slowly disassociating from his connections with the BPRD and trying to figure out what exactly he is and what that means for him as an entity. Not to mention that he has always been the brain of the BPRD, and that hasn't changed in recent books. It's just kind of given him more of an existential issue to deal with. And you want to talk fun, you know, you need look no further than the awesome stylings of Mike Mignola. You want to talk
I don't know if I would call him fun.
Also Mike Mignola and the Hellboy
I don't know if I would
so...
call him fun, nor do I what I say. You know, I mean, Abe Sapien of the BPRD. It's you're speaking the comic book lingo of binary 00100 that nobody understands. We have a tertiary understanding of a side character, somebody else's lackey, somebody else's sidekick. This is Abe Sapien's brought in because it's like Hellboy did the Vanna White and say, and here he is.
In the role he's played for HB, because
but the thing is, he most definitely plays a role for HB, while Red Sonja is and has always been her own character.
Abe his own character and making quite a dark Lovecraftian existential.
Actually, you used the word trying. They're trying to do that, meaning they have not yet succeeded. And that's the argument you made. While Red Sonja is
the word trying because it's still in progress.
Uh-huh.
It's not that they haven't done it, it's that the storyline isn't finished yet. And if the storyline continues as good as it has been going, then it's going to be one of the great independent comic runs ever. I just don't
all the
know
while Red Sonja
where
is a strong character in every iteration and has been. They've already tried. They've already succeeded. And they've succeeded so much so that they brought her over into the Archie universe. And guess what? Still a strong character, still more fun, still better written. And we're at the 4-minute mark, but I'll let you have the last 20.
Are you honestly going to tell me that watching Red Sonja just punch things is as interesting as Abe with every time he's delivered exposition? Not to mention the, you know, personal story of him trying to figure out his place in the world and the fact that he's a walking Lovecraftian creature who for some reason is deciding to side with humanity against an entire army of frog people, essentially.
Yes, I am going to tell you that a barbarian woman in Riverdale is far more interesting than a sapien frog person.
I vehemently disagree because I don't think you can tell many stories with Red Sonja other than, and then she hit the thing.
Alrighty, stop. There we go. I figured we'll let you have the last one. Okay, so there you go. That appointment. Where do you stand? What do you think? Who made the better argument? I can't.
Abe's. Sorry, I get names confused because I assume avatars. Dalton. Yeah, I like Dalton's thing because I actually like the whole exposition into, you know, who you are through, you know, am I a monster? Am I not a monster? Where do I really stand, you know?
Alrighty. How about you, Bring?
Wow, this is tough. Yeah, not being familiar with, you know, Abe Sapien and, you know, the Red Sonja, the only thing I would go against, you know, your argument on Red Sonja was there is that Mark Russell recent run. Ugh. But
That's your argument, not mine.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
yeah, and
That's
I didn't bring it up because I didn't want to do too much of a low blow here. I already
you
brought up
don't- you
one more day, which should qualify me for the circle of geek hell already. So let's not bait the lily too much here.
If I, God, I gotta go Dalton. Just a little bit more passion, and get more of the character journey. And again, like I said, I'm not even remotely qualified to be a judge on this particular question, but just based on what I heard, I would say Dalton made slightly better points on what the character is on his way to being over the course of this run.
That's all right. So there you go, Dalton. You win the point. So what would you have said, Venkman?
I don't know with you.
Oh, thank you.
Suck up.
No. And it has nothing to do with the fact that I like Sonya more than Abe Sapien, who's just a guy in a tank. So if you're talking about,
you haven't been reading the current run, have you? Actually, you haven't read any of the runs. You're just going off the
honestly, you can tell me who the hell Abe Sapien is. I don't know if that's the main character from Hellboy or if that's the fish character. I don't know who that is. I'm assuming it's the fish character guy because
it's the lead character from the movie Shape of Water.
Yeah.
Basically, let's not even go into the fact that Guillermo, while I love him, is basically ripping himself off with Shape of Water.
Yeah. I thought Abe was the big guy, the devil guy. Is that am I confusing with the other guy?
Yeah, you are. But
I would see. I read on that letter alone. Because he didn't explain who it is. He just assumed I knew.
The thing is that I completely did what Dalton did before. I said Red Sonja, and I was like, I didn't read the last one. I've read the Archie one. Yeah, I've read the Archie. So I pulled that out of my butt. But there you go.
All you had to say is hot ginger and chainmail bikini, chopping heads off, killing monsters, lots of blood.
Yeah.
So there you
go. The reason I didn't go into a lot of exposition about who Abe was to begin with, Vank, is because Abe is a complex enough character that even just delivering the basic exposition of him is gonna take 2 minutes out of the 3 or 4 minutes that I've got. So I was like, "Fuck, let me go with the recent run that's actually really."
I'm just saying that's the only reason I would have chose Ingleton, because I had no idea who you're talking about.
Well, that has more to do with the fact that you're just not well read. But that's
oh, come on, man. Come on.
I saw Hellboy, and I don't remember Ron Perlman's character and Selma Blair. The rest of it's a blur, because I started blending that movie into a League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Yeah,
you need to watch Hellboy again, if for no other reason than Guillermo del Toro is a badass.
Alrighty, so there you go, gang. He wins. That's a run of Thunderdome. If you've never seen it before, it's more structured. Tonight was just kind of a thrown together. We had someone dropping in and out. If you want to play, we just go on over to Twitter at englandteen.com. Tell me you want to, and we'll get you on to a show. And it's a lot of fun. Don't you think Dalton? I like it. Because we're basically arguing comics, and we're arguing comic book situations, the kind of stuff you may have done as a kid. Who's stronger?
It was nice. It was nice to unambiguously win one for once.
Yeah.
It seems like both times I've done it before, it's been just by the skin of my teeth.
Oh my gosh!
Technically, you tied, but okay.
So basically, since this isn't a technical thing, your win doesn't count, so you can't brag you beat Ingleton.
Alrighty, gang. But yeah, let me know on the at Twitter at Englandteen if you would like to join a game, and we'll get them started. I don't know when can we do this one, but I'll make an announcement in the community tab, and we'll get them going. And like I said, there's something in it for you. So
like I said, I'm available as long as Jimmy sticks to Wednesdays.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, we'll make sure it's not on Wednesdays.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's Thursdays and Fridays.
And I'm available basically any time that my phone doesn't decide to randomly tap out for me.
Because it seems like I'm on a stream every day except for Wednesday, and it's kind of nice having a Wednesday off.
Yeah, I understand that.
It's-
All righty, gang. Once again, thank you for hanging out. Thank you very much for the super chat, Z. I certainly appreciate it. You can't give heroes families, but they're talking about the Superman thing. And as always, thank you very, very much for watching. Now, Point Man, one more time, tell the name of your comic and where they can find it.
Well, it's Point Man Comics, but yeah, it's gonna be on Indie Planet once it's all ready and stuff to get live. Yeah.
Where
Indie
can they
Planet.
find information about it?
On my Twitter for Pointman Comics or Pointman C. That's like my Twitter handle. I do have a Facebook page too. I should update it a little bit more.
All righty. So there you go. And as always, gang, thank you very, very much for watching. Y'all have a good night.
Guys.
Good night, kids.